JCU インサイトのお時間です。あえば議長はトランプ政権下でアメリカ国内の情報機関を統括する国家情報長官代理を務めたリチャード・グレネル氏にインタビューを行いました。グレネル氏はトランプ政権での入閣以前、在ドイツ米国大使を務めており、外交とインテリジェンスの双方に長けたエキスパートの一人です。外交の最前線にいたからこそ語れるアメリカファーストの意義とは何か、また外交インテリジェンスの立場から見た中国の恐ろしさとは、テキサス州ダラスで行われたインタビューの様子をご覧ください。
はい、皆様こんにちは。 CPAC テキサスの現場から Jcu インサイトの第1回目の収録をいたします。今日初めのゲストはですね、トランプ政権の時の国家情報長官代行のリチャード・グレネルさんにこれからお話を伺います。こんにちは。Thank you。じゃあ、リチャード・グレネルさん、あなたにはまず最初にお礼を言わなければいけません。2019年の、Thank you。2019年の JCPAC であなたは体調が非常に悪い中、わざわざ日本の僕たちのために動画を送ってくれました。まずそのことをお礼を言わせてください。
I was so disappointed to not come to Tokyo and to not be with you in person. But I couldn't miss the opportunity to at least send a video of welcome. But I'm feeling much better.
ですよね。はい。今年も JCPAC やるので、またお声掛けしますから、チャンスがあればぜひ来ていただきたいです。
So this year we are going to hold another Japanese CPAC.
Yes.
When you are available, please.
I would love to be there. I would love to be there.
Thank you. じゃあ最初の質問します。
So first question.
あなたはブッシュ政権の時、国務省の国連スポークスマンとして活躍されました。そしてさらにトランプ政権ではドイツ大使も務められました。そうした非常に外交に詳しい立場から今のバイデン政権の外交政策についてどのように考えておられるか、問題点を挙げるとしたらどんなところがあるか、それをぜひ教えてください。
So we know that you are a spokesman to UN under the George W. Bush administration, and also you are the ambassador to Germany under the Trump administration. So you are an expert of foreign affairs. So now you see the Biden administration's foreign policy. What is the biggest issue of what concerning you the most?
So we have this concept called America First. And I would argue that Japan has a policy of Japan first. And where I served in Germany, they have a Germany first policy. But somehow Americans are the only ones who get in trouble for somehow pushing our America First agenda. And America First does not mean America alone. What we really mean is that if the American taxpayers are funding, say, ambassadors, we should be pushing American policy. I'll give you an example. When I was U.S. ambassador to Germany, the Germans have been a member of NATO for a very long time. And NATO members have an obligation that they all freely signed to pay 2% of their GDP on defense spending. And the Germans don't do that. They got very comfortable with the Americans giving them a security umbrella. And it was a policy of every single president, whether Democrat or Republican, that European members of NATO should pay their fair share. Except we never really made it an issue. We never pushed it. And so when President Trump came in and we ambassadors decided to make it an issue, we pressured these countries to actually do it, to pay. And that wasn't popular. There was a lot of pressure from the German government and the German public to shut up, to stop pushing us. Why do you keep asking? And yet we felt very strongly that it was the America First priority and criteria, that if we were going to be good members of NATO, others should be too.
それがどうですか、今、バイデン政権になってから何かそのドイツに対する政策が変わったりとか、あるいはその今、バイデンの外交政策を見て何か問題だと思うところありますか？
So now it's under the Biden's administration. So did it change, or what do you think? What kind of issues do you see in the foreign policy of Biden?
It's a very good question. And what I would say is that while Donald Trump pushed America first, Joe Biden, he maximizes this word consensus. So many people think consensus is good, and it sounds good. It sounds like we could just all get along. But the reality of consensus is that the American position and the German position somehow meet in the middle. And let's just take that into the example of NATO spending. If the NATO spending is supposed to be 2%, and the Germans are at 1.2%, and they don't want to pay any more, so what do? We meet in the middle and they only pay 1.6? Well, that's not fair because the rule is 2%. Consensus would tell you, find a solution and just live with it. And America First policy is, you committed to 2%, you should do 2%. And so I think that the Joe Biden administration will maximize consensus. Now, I will say this, consensus in the UN Security Council is a disaster because you've got 15 countries who are now going to all have to agree. You will quickly come to the lowest common denominator of agreement. And when you're having that lowest common denominator of agreement, I would argue it's certainly not America First, and it's certainly not a very good, potent policy.
なるほど、なるほど。非常に切れ味のいい回答ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Very crystal clear, sharp answers. Thank you.
じゃあもう一つ伺いますね。あなたはトランプ政権の時、2020年から DNI の長官の代行をされておられました。でそのインテリジェンスの専門家の立場から見て、今のインテリジェンスコミュニティ、世界のコミュニティを見てですね、一番問題のある国はどこでしょう？やはりロシアでしょうか、あるいは中国でしょうか、そこの問題をぜひ聞かせてください。
So we know that you are acting Director of National Intelligence under the Trump administration in 2020. So you understand the intel communities, but when you see the intelligence community in the world, which country is the biggest problem or challenging for us? Russia or China?
China.
Yeah. その理由を彼らの問題点を教えてください。
So can you explain why you see that way?
So I always say that Russia is a problem. China is a crisis. And the example I would give you is that the Russians have tried to manipulate the discussion we have about policy, and they've tried to manipulate our discussions about elections. The Chinese have actually sent spies to the United States to get to know our local politicians, and they've done a very good job of convincing local politicians to go along with their policies. And whether that's mayors, city council members, governors, it's a real problem, and we've got to be better. Now, we've closed the Chinese consulate in Houston. I actually believe we should close the Chinese consulate in San Francisco. It should be closed because of the activities that are going on there. It is just time to put a stop to China. They have manipulated currency. They're not honest in their trading practices. We know that they are responsible for the COVID-19 virus and the cover-up afterwards. We have to be very clear on this problem. In serving in Europe and Eastern Europe, where I did, and the Balkans, I have to tell you that what the Belt and Road Initiative has been doing in Eastern Europe is a real disaster. They're convincing countries to sign up. They're straddling them with incredible debt. The promise to bring in economic development doesn't materialize. What they actually bring in is their own people to build it. They request visas. And once their own people build these projects, they leave and the economic development is not there. And too many now in Eastern Europe and in the Balkans are wise to the fact that this Belt and Road Initiative is a real terrible idea.
日本も相当な被害を受けて困っているので、今おっしゃっていることはすごくよくわかります。今ちょうどサンフランシスコの話題が出ましたけれども、カリフォルニア州についてちょっと伺いたいと思います。今メディアでも随分次のカリフォルニアの州知事選のことが取り沙汰されていて、あなたも候補であり立候補するんではないかということをいろいろと伺っておりますけれども、正直そこもし今何かお考えがあればぜひ聞かせてください。カリフォルニアの現状、それからあなたがどう考えているか、これをぜひ最後に聞かせていただきたいと思います。
So this is our last question. So we hear that in the media, so you might run for the office for the governor in California. So really, as long as you can, we'd like to hear your comment on that. So what do you think about the current situation of California? And also, are you seriously thinking to run?
So I haven't made a decision on what to do, but California is really a disaster right now in terms of management. Just today we had Gavin Newsom announce that we all should cut back on water consumption. Now this is crazy. We live on the ocean. When you live on the ocean and you're telling people to conserve more water, you obviously have a really bad water management policy. Every country in the Middle East has been able to figure it out. They're gargling with water, they're spitting it out. It's everywhere. They have green grass in the Middle East. This is not rocket science. This is desalination. It totally exists. Any governor that is telling its people to conserve water who live on the ocean is clearly not managing the resources properly. So this is a problem over and over with Gavin Newsom. He's corrupt. The Democratic Party of California controls every office. And so people are really tired of this. Now the problem that we face is that California's system is ingrained with these voting patterns of every county has voter rolls that are large and messy. They haven't been cleaned up. And so I believe that what we have to do is clean up the voter rolls and expand voter participation in order for a Republican to win statewide.
わかりました。デリケートな問題なのでここで十分です。あなたがこれからもアメリカやそれから今までの本当に経験と能力を生かしてアメリカや世界のために大きな貢献をしていただけることを心から期待してます。今日はありがとう。
So I know that this is a sensitive issue, but thank you very much for sharing. That was really good and helpful for us to know. So you have a lot of experiences and expertise. So we really wish you to keep contributing to the U.S. and the world from now on too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I really look forward to coming to Tokyo soon.
東京に間もなく行けることをとても楽しみにしてます。